Okay, now what are the nutrients essential in children? I'm going to go very quickly on this because without this I cannot finish my presentation. This is Professor Michael Golden. Okay, he is the guru of nutrition in children. Really, he worked in Africa for 50 years. He's from Scotland. Okay, and he's a biochemist, and then he's a pediatrician, and he has published about 100 200 papers on malnutrition. Okay, and then he worked first on he did a lot of experiment on rats, and then basically he came up with RUTF, ready to use therapeutic food. So it's because of him, he recognized what are these nutrients which are lacking in this malnourished children, and he developed this a special food, which would bring these children out of malnutrition. Okay, so he basically recognized there are two different types of micronutrients. Okay, and if you know, I'm sure you guys know that we require about 40 types of nutrients in our body, right? I mean, not in the body, but we require in our food, essential nutrients. Okay, these are 40 types. Okay, this is probably new for you, but this is a concept that doctors are using right now to treat severe acute malnutrition. Okay, now this 40 types of nutrients are basically divided into type 1 and type 2 nutrients. Okay, so what are your type 1 nutrients? Those are functional nutrients. And type 2 are your growth nutrients. Growth nutrients mean it is involved in growth of the child. Functional nutrients, but they are basically particularly used in particular functions. Okay, so when the child is deficient, say let's talk about type 1 first. When the child is deficient in type 1 nutrient, these children, they grow pretty well in early age. Okay, so early stage there is no problem if children are deficient in type 1 nutrients. Baby continue to grow. They can, and what happens is this type 1 nutrients are stored in the body. So for example, one of the example of type 1 nutrient is your iron. So iron is stored in the body. So if suppose child is not getting iron on a day-to-day basis, but has a good storage in the liver, the child will continue to get iron, for metabolic functions. So this is important that most of the nutrient in type 1, not all, most of them have body store. So you may not record day-to-day in child's diet. Okay, when they are deficient, there are clinical deficiency signs and symptoms. Okay, so again, iron, if child is iron deficient, you will see clinical signs and clinical symptoms. Which are other nutrient which are type 1 is your vitamins, vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin C, D, all of them have clinical signs if they're deficient, right? Another one is iodine. Okay, then it only affects specific enzymes. So suppose if one particular, just not all the metabolic functions, only some enzymatic reaction it helps, it affects. So basically, suppose child has anemia, or iron deficiency, only probably a child will be anemic. Nothing else. The other metabolic function is going on, right? What is the amount in breast milk if type 1 is deficient? Basically, mother's milk will be deficient too. So if mother is deficient on iron, the breast milk will be deficient in iron. So that's important. Now type 2, we all know about type 1 very well. All of us, doctors, nutritionists, we all know iron, calcium, vitamin D, vitamin A. We all know about type functional nutrient. What we don't know much, and that's why we have so much of undernutrition, is type 2 nutrient. Okay, and what is the first response if child is type 2 nutrient deficiency in their diet? Is the growth failure. The child will stop growing. Child will not have muscle mass developing. Child will not grow tall. Child will not have all this. So the first response is child will stop growing. Why child stops growing? Because there is no body store. So do you see the body store? Absent. So this type 2 nutrients are not stored in the body. So child requires in the diet on a day-to-day basis. Every day child requires those type 2 nutrients. Okay, and if child doesn't get it, what's going to happen? This type 2 nutrients are part of our body. So our tissue, our muscles, our organs are made up of type 2 nutrients. Okay, and another thing is it is required for general metabolism. So do you see effect? It is required for basically full lot of biochemical reaction, right? As a coenzyme, as a cofactor, very, very important. So if you don't have those type of nutrients in a diet, it's not coming from store. So it will come from the muscle. baby child will start eating up his own muscles to have this micronutrient because it is required for metabolism. If you don't have this micronutrients, metabolism will eventually stop, child will get infected, child will die. Okay, so what nature does, nature doesn't take away life in a day or two. It slowly baby starts melting, and all those nutrients which are there in the muscle mass come in the blood. Okay, whatever is required by the body, they will keep it. All the other rest will be excreted in the urine. Okay, so this is very important. Here I've written that basically in breast milk, type 2 are stable because it's coming from mother's muscle mass. So it's important that this type 2 nutrients are required. Okay, even for mother, if mother is breastfeeding or if mother is pregnant. Okay, another thing I want to talk about is anthropometric. So it appears late in the deficiency. So your functional micronutrient, if they are deficient, you will see signs and symptoms. There are biochemical tests you can do. You can do iron test, you can do vitamin D test, right? But for growth type 2 nutrient, there are no specific tests because there you have to do tissue biopsy, which nobody does. Okay, another thing is only way you can diagnose if child is type 2 micronutrient deficient is by looking at anthropometric abnormality. So you look at your height, you look at your weight, you look at your muoc test, and you will see that child is small, they are stunted, anorexia. So if child has type 2 deficiency, after certain age, what will happen, or after certain stage, the metabolic function will be so poor in these children that they will have anorexia. Means they will have, the appetite will go down. And this are called complicated SAN. Okay, and this children need to be in the hospital right away. But in type 1 deficiency, your child does not have loss of appetite. So appetite is perfect. Okay, so this I wanted to just show you what are type 1 type 2 nutrients. Okay, so if you look at type 1 nutrient, those are iron, iodine, copper, calcium. These are all your type 1. Okay, you have by and large storage. Type 2 is your essential amino acids, your potassium, magnesium, phosphorus, sulfur, zinc. All these things are type 2. We know about protein, we know about fat, but we don't know much about potassium, magnesium, phosphorus, sulfur, zinc. We don't know much. Sorry, we don't know which food gives magnesium. Maybe some little one or two thing, but we need to focus on type 2 to prevent malnutrition. So this is, what is this? Is this type 1 or type 2? Look at the muscle mass. What's happening? Their muscle mass has been melted, right? Do you see? Look at this. Muscles are gone, completely gone. Child has such poor metabolism that look at this. Child is absolutely exhausted. Do you see it? Metabolism is absolutely poor. Child is so exhausted. Brain is not getting enough energy, right? Look at the tummy. Do you see in both of them? Do you see how tummy is big? What is happening? Because the motility of gut is so slow, because child is not getting enough energy, what is happening now to the intestine? There's decreased motility, and what will happen? There'll be something called SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. There's a lot of bacterial overgrowth. So these children, we have to start with amoxicillin first. Okay. Here, see, look at this. All the muscle mass is gone, right? Because type 2 is not available in the diet. Child is just getting the type 2 nutrient from his muscle mass, right? How long these children will survive? Do we know how many children do we have in India like this? SAM children? How many children? 1 crore. We have 1 crore children who are like this in India presently. And now with COVID, I don't know what will be the number. I have no idea. Probably double, triple. I don't know. Because young children, it takes just maybe 5 weeks or 6 weeks to become like this. Okay, because they don't have fat storage as much as adults. So they become deteriorated very fast, and they start gaining also very fast. So that's important to basically take care of nutrition for young children. Okay, now that what we saw, I told you about this becomes, these children have this kind of problem within 6 weeks. You see this, but if these children survive, okay, and they survive and they become older, okay, but what will happen? Now their height will suffer because they haven't gotten those type 2 nutrients. These are same age children. Look at this. This is about 3.5-year-old child. This is 3.5-year-old, 3.5-year-old. Look at the difference between their height. Same thing. This is Guatemalan children. Okay, here 9-year-old children should be here. This are all 9-year-old kids. But look at their height. Do you see how their height? what has happened? Children have not gotten type 2 nutrients in the diet, and that's why their height is suffered. And all these children whose height have suffered, these children have not gone type 2 nutrients when they were growing up in first 1,000 days. Okay, because first 1,000 days, that's when your height is growing really fast. And when height is not developed, what is not developed? The brain. So these children will not do well in the school too.
Welcome to the spoken tutorial on Type 1 and Type 2 nutrients. This tutorial is about the difference between Type 1 and Type 2 nutrients. Let us begin. Food gives us energy and nutrients. Nutrients are necessary for the growth and maintenance of our body. Some of these nutrients cannot be produced by our body. Such nutrients are called essential nutrients. There are 40 essential nutrients that we must obtain from food. We cannot get adequate amounts of these nutrients from nutrient-poor foods. Such foods, even in large amounts, can satisfy only the feeling of hunger. However, we can be deficient in one or more of the essential nutrients. This is known as hidden hunger. Essential nutrients are divided into two types: Type 1 nutrients or functional nutrients and Type 2 nutrients or growth nutrients. Iron, calcium, iodine and copper are Type 1 nutrients. Manganese, fluorine and selenium also belong to the same group. Vitamin B, C, A, D, E and K are Type 1 nutrients as well. Sulfur, chlorine and protein or essential amino acids are Type 2 nutrients. Sodium, potassium, magnesium, phosphorus and zinc also belong to the same group. Essential fatty acids like omega-3 are Type 2 nutrients as well. Let's understand the difference between Type 1 and Type 2 nutrients. Type 1 nutrients are required for specific functions in the tissues. Therefore, they are concentrated in a particular tissue or group of tissues. Let's take calcium and vitamin A as examples. Calcium is required for strong bones. Vitamin A is required for healthy eyes. By contrast, Type 2 nutrients are required for the overall growth of the body. They form part of the structure and function of each and every cell in the body. Therefore, they are present in all body tissues. Let's discuss the response of our body to Type 1 and 2 nutrient deficiencies. During a Type 1 nutrient deficiency, the body continues to grow normally. Body takes this nutrient from the specific tissues in which it is stored. Let's take calcium as an example. In calcium deficiency, the body uses the calcium stored in the bones. As a result, the concentration of that nutrient in the tissues decreases. Then, the organs dependent on that nutrient are affected. Therefore, the person becomes ill. The sick person then shows a specific sign of deficiency. Let's understand this with the help of 4 examples. Bone thinning and increased risk of fractures are signs of calcium deficiency. Anemia is a sign of iron deficiency. Night blindness is a sign of vitamin A deficiency, and hypothyroidism is a sign of iodine deficiency. On the other hand, there is only one sign of Type 2 nutrient deficiencies. That sign is called growth failure. Growth failure means the body reduces the rate of two major processes: formation of new cells and replacement of old cells. The body stops growing and making new tissues. This leads to low body weight, short height, and decreased muscle mass. All the cells of the body, including the immune system, are affected. This increases the risk of infections. Eventually, it can cause death. Type 2 nutrients are not stored in the body. In a deficiency, the body may start to break down its tissues or muscles. This releases the type 2 nutrient in which the body is deficient. This nutrient will then be used for other tissues of the body. When tissue breakdown becomes severe, the functions of the cells are affected. Also, there is a reduction in the appetite. The tissue breakdown provides the nutrient in which the body is deficient. However, it also releases all the other type 2 nutrients from the tissues. These nutrients are then excreted from the body. So, all type 2 nutrients must be provided in a type 2 nutrient deficiency. Correcting a type 1 nutrient deficiency does not require all type 1 nutrients. It can be treated by giving only the nutrient in which the body is deficient. Next, let's discuss the availability of type 1 and 2 nutrients from breast milk. Breast milk contains stable stores of type 2 nutrients. They do not change even if the mother is undernourished. The baby of an undernourished mother can grow well with adequate breastfeeding. By contrast, the quantity of type 1 nutrients in breast milk is not stable. It varies as per mother's self-nourishment. Let's take vitamin D as an example. Breast milk of a mother deficient in vitamin D has less amount of vitamin D. Next, let's discuss the diagnosis of type 1 and type 2 nutrient deficiencies. A type 1 nutrient deficiency is commonly diagnosed in two ways. First, the unique symptoms of the deficiency are recognized. Then, the level of the nutrient in the body is measured by a blood test. Let's take iron and iodine as examples. In iron deficiency, symptoms such as pale skin and fatigue are recognized. The level of hemoglobin in the body is measured by a blood test. Iodine deficiency is also diagnosed by its unique symptoms and tests. Symptoms such as swelling of the neck, weight gain, and hair loss are recognized. The level of iodine and thyroid hormones in the body is measured by blood test. Type 1 nutrient deficiencies are well recognized and treated. There are various ways to correct a type 1 nutrient deficiency. One can take the recommended amount of these nutrients in the diet. Supplements are also recommended for these nutrients. Iron, vitamin C, and folic acid supplements are commonly prescribed. Food is fortified with type 1 nutrients in areas where deficiency is common. A well-known example is salt that is fortified with iodine. A qualified nutrition expert can provide guidance on these methods. Diagnosis and treatment of a type 2 nutrient deficiency is difficult. There is only one way to diagnose any type 2 nutrient deficiency. It is to measure and track the weight, height, and mid-upper arm circumference. However, this will only help in detecting growth failure. Growth failure is caused by every type 2 nutrient deficiency. It is difficult to determine which specific nutrient the body is deficient in. So, correcting a type 2 nutrient deficiency requires all type 2 nutrients. Food rich in all type 2 nutrients must be given in such a deficiency. Increasing only the quantity of previously given food will not work. Previously given food failed to provide type 2 nutrients to the body. The quality of food must be changed for normal growth of the body. Please consult a qualified nutrition expert for further guidance. Food sources of type 1 and type 2 nutrients are discussed in other tutorials. Please visit our website for more details. This brings us to the end of this tutorial.
So from this session onward, we're going to introduce you to different recipes, depending upon which nutrient that we're talking about. I want to reiterate, this is recipes mainly for older children and adults, lactating mothers, pregnant mothers, adolescent, just regular adults. I also want to mention that we have separate recipes for younger children. So we have separate recipes for 6 months, 7 months, 8 to 11 months, 12 to 18 months, because it depends upon a child's age, right? So those recipes will come later on when I'm taking session on complementary feedings. Okay, so these are general recipes. Do watch them. I won't be asking any questions on them, but definitely it will be helpful if you understand that what ingredients to use to increase those nutrient content. So it's more of a learning thing. You don't have to necessarily kind of make it at home, but if you can try it, hey, you will become an expert to tell anybody else at what to cook, how to cook, all that. So do watch them. Okay, thank you.